Have you ever met someone who apologizes for absolutely everything? They say sorry for speaking. Sorry for asking a question. Sorry for taking up space. Sorry for existing in a moment that inconvenienced nobody. And the apology comes instantly, before they have even processed whether they did anything wrong. Psychology says that behavior is never random. It is never just a habit or a personality quirk. It is a deeply rooted pattern that reveals something important about how that person learned to survive in the world around them. For many over-apologizers, this started in childhood. They grew up in environments where expressing needs, emotions, or opinions was met with irritation, dismissal, or punishment. So they learned to shrink. To pre-apologize before taking up space. To make themselves smaller before anyone else could tell them to. The apology became a shield. A way of saying please do not be angry with me before anyone even had the chance to be. And that pattern, built in childhood, follows them silently into every adult relationship and interaction they have. Psychology identifies 4 responses to threat: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. The fawn response is the least talked about but one of the most common. It describes the pattern of appeasing others to avoid conflict or danger. People who over-apologize are often chronic fawners. When they sense even the smallest tension, even imagined tension, their nervous system immediately moves to smooth it over. The apology is not always about guilt. It is about safety. Their brain has learned that keeping others comfortable keeps them protected. Over-apologizers often feel responsible for things completely outside their control. Someone else is in a bad mood, they assume they caused it. A conversation goes quiet, they assume they said something wrong. A plan falls through, they apologize even when they had nothing to do with it. Psychologists call this hyper-responsibility. It is an exhausting way to live. Every emotional shift in the room becomes their fault to fix. Every uncomfortable moment becomes their burden to carry. And the apology is how they attempt to restore a balance they never actually disrupted. For some people, their entire sense of value comes from being easy, agreeable, and low maintenance. The moment they feel they have inconvenienced someone, even slightly, their self-worth takes a direct hit. So the apology is not just social. It is a desperate attempt to restore their own sense of being good enough. Psychologists call this contingent self-worth. Their value as a person feels conditional, dependent on whether others are comfortable around them. And sorry becomes the currency they use to pay for their right to exist in a space. Underneath most chronic apologizing is a deep and exhausting fear of conflict. Not just discomfort with it, genuine fear. These individuals have often experienced conflict as dangerous. Either in childhood or in past relationships where disagreement led to punishment, rejection, or emotional withdrawal. So their nervous system learned to prevent conflict at all costs. The apology arrives before the conflict can even begin. It is a preemptive move. A way of staying safe in a world that taught them disagreement always leads to damage. Over time, for many people, the constant apologizing stops being a response and becomes a personality. They begin to see themselves as someone who is always in the wrong. Always slightly too much or not enough. Always one step away from upsetting someone. And that self-image reinforces the behavior. The more they apologize, the more they believe they have something to apologize for. Psychologists call this a negative self-concept loop. The apology feeds the belief and the belief generates more apologies. Breaking the cycle requires more than just saying sorry less. It requires rebuilding the story they tell themselves about who they are and what they deserve. So the next time you hear someone apologize for something that needed no apology, understand what you are really witnessing. You are not seeing weakness. You are not seeing someone with no self-respect. You are seeing a person whose nervous system learned very early that making themselves small was the safest way to move through the world. That is not a character flaw. That is a survival response that outlived the danger that created it. And the most powerful thing that person can do, is slowly, gently, learn that they no longer have to shrink to be safe. Subscribe for more real psychology explained simply.